So I came across an article from Bill Huber of Sports Illustrated, and it's titled ESPN Underwhelmed by Packers Lineup. I have not yet read it, so I want to see exactly what ESPN is thinking here. It says here, ESPN.com ranked the NFL's starting lineups in advance of the start of training camp. It did not think highly of the Green Bay Packers despite last year's success. Let's see where they rank us. Okay. ESPN.com. So here are the people who are doing these rankings, because of course ESPN, they have so many employees there that we got to see who it is. So ESPN.com's Mike Clay, Aaron Schatz, and Seth Walder ranked every NFL lineup, then combined their rankings for one final ranking. The Packers were only 13th. So 13th, okay, so far behind the presumptive Super Bowl contenders and not far above being squarely in the middle. 13th, that is definitely low. Thinking about the playoffs last year, they're 7 seeds in the AFC and NFC. The Packers were the 7th seed last year, and now they only think they jumped from, you could call it 14th last year if you look at playoff seedings, something like that. Jumped to 13th. I think that's a low ranking for the Packers. I think they should be much higher, more so definitely top 10. I would personally say top 5, top 6 when it comes to lineups in the NFL. And let's see what they say here. The analysts then broke down each team's biggest strength and weakness, X factor, and top non-starter. For Clay, the Packers' biggest strength was the edge rushing quartet of Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, and Kingsley Enagbare. Gary and Smith have been reliable performers, and Van Ness could be primed for takeoff in year 2 after a strong finish to his rookie year. The weakness, according to Clay, was the linebackers, a group with some uncertainty after the release of Devondre Campbell and the day 2 additions of Edgerrin Cooper in the 2nd round and Tyron Hopper in the 3rd round. Former first-round pick Quay Walker is moving to middle linebacker in the new 4-3 scheme. He's been a tackling machine, Clay said, while noting his poor pro football focus grades. And that's the thing when it comes to trying to, predict teams and defenses and offenses. When there are a few rookies on the roster, of course, as fans, we like to hope and expect the best-case scenario, which would be Edgerrin Cooper coming in and playing great from the start. Javon Bullard, safety, other second-rounder coming in, playing great from the start. And I do think they have a lot of potential, but let's say Edgerrin Cooper does have a bad year in his first season, then the Packers linebacker group could be a weakness. And so I believe that, that could be possible. But still, I think that there's enough around there on the Packers that it's not going to be that big of a problem. And so I see that. Then here we have the X factors are the receivers, with Walder wondering who would emerge as number 1 receiver, as if it matters. Quote, there have been moments and flashes of upside from Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, and Dontavian Wicks, Walder wrote. Odds are one of them will ascend into a wide receiver 1 caliber player, but we haven't seen it yet and don't know which one it will be. Assuming what happens for someone, QB Jordan Love in the Packers offense should stay hot into 2024. I do think the Packers have some wide receiver 1 caliber players, but because of spreading the ball around, you don't see it when it comes to the stats. I think last year, if Jaden Reed was the only really good receiver on the Packers, he probably would have had crazy stats. But because all these other guys get open as well, of course the ball's going to get spread around. So I don't think it's that they don't have any. It's just that because there's so many receivers, it can take away from an individual stat line because it's getting spread out, especially, even to tight ends with Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. And then let's finish off here. So Bill Huber finishes it off saying this. In the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers, who knocked the Packers out of the playoffs, are number 1. The Lions, who won the NFC North last year, are 5. The Cowboys, who are crushed by the Packers in the playoffs, are number 6. And the Eagles, who will battle the Packers in week 1, are number 10. I don't think the Lions should be 8 spots ahead of the Packers at this point. I think that's I don't agree with that. I think that they're much closer, and I think they're going to be competing for that top NFC North spot. I think the Packers should be ahead of the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys should have a good year. They always do. They just lose in the playoffs, and that could happen again. But with the Packers beating them in the playoffs, with the additions here in Green Bay, Packers definitely need to be ahead of the Cowboys, and also need to be ahead of the Eagles, who lost 6 of the last 7 games last year. So those are my thoughts. But they have them as 13th. Do any of you agree with that ranking, or would you have them higher, have them lower? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.